We are getting so close to the primary, and candidates are still out on the campaign trail. And a lot has been made of this. I just read a story written by Lori Roberts at AZ Central in the Arizona Republic. Candidate for Senate Mark Lamb was given a conversation by Clean Elections because the debate was offered to Kari Lake as primary opponent. Kari Lake declined to debate, so Mark Lamb was given an opportunity, and he called it a job interview while he was there speaking to the public. He joins us now, not as sheriff so much as candidate this time. Sheriff Lamb, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So let's talk about this. I was involved in the conversation with Kari Lake when she was critical of Katie Hobbs not debating her, and Governor Hobbs didn't debate, so there was a conversation which I had with her. Do you think that Kari Lake should have been there?
Well, I think anybody running for the U.S. Senate that wants the vote of the people of Arizona should have been there. You know, there's actually a third person in this. They weren't there either. I think it's important that the voters get an opportunity to see their candidates and see who is the most qualified, most experienced for the job. And I truly think that person is me. This gave me an opportunity to kind of spend 30 minutes, hopefully making my case to the people of Arizona. But I absolutely think that, like I said on that night, this is a job interview. We're here to see if the people of Arizona see that we are qualified enough to give us the job to represent them back in the U.S. Senate. It's one of the most important jobs in Arizona. It's one of the most important jobs in the country. And we got to make sure we got the right people.
Do you understand the strategic part of it, though, the strategy and not debating?
Oh, absolutely. I do. I understand the strategy. I mean, look, you have to pick one or the other. You either pick the strategy of not debating and giving your opponent, any type of notoriety or publicity, or you pick the other side and potentially risk being outclassed and showing that the experience level is a big difference. And so, yeah, I understand the strategy 100%.
So let's talk about your resume. You're talking about, you said this is a job interview. Explain to the listeners, if you don't mind, the qualifications that you think make you the best candidate for this job.
Well, when you look, first of all, Mike, understanding what the issues are that we're facing as a country, and if you poll after poll after poll, and I've been all over the state for the last year and a half, and the main issues are always the same: border, crime, economy, and the national security. Those are the top four issues. National security and border being one and the same right now. And there's not a candidate in this race that brings more experience to the race than what I bring as far as border. You know, these are not talking points for me. They're not photo ops. This is what we do every day. We're out there pulling people out of the deserts, chasing people on the freeways, stopping human smuggling, stopping drug smuggling, trying to stop the fentanyl poisoning. And then you take the economy. Well, I'm not an economist. I have also run a large agency. I've run a government budget. My budget has variables, and I balance that budget every year, and I stay within that budget. I'm the only candidate that's done that. And then when you talk about crime, I've spent nearly the last 2 decades in law enforcement, understanding. And you don't just learn this stuff overnight. I'll tell you, it takes you years to get a real solid grasp on this. And we don't have years. What we need is somebody that can hit the ground running, that has experience in these things, that's been an elected official, that's won elections. I think I check all those boxes. And ultimately, we need a proven conservative leader and fighter. I've been a lifelong conservative, and these are values that are deep in my core. But I also have the right temperament to work with Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And so when you take all that and put it together, I just don't see how anybody competes with the qualifications and experience that I bring to the table.
Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb, Senate candidate Mark Lamb, joining us now. So when you look at overall what's happening at the border, I want to ask you a question about that in your observation. I have a story, we're going to talk about it later on in the show, that the border numbers, border crossings are at its lowest point in the entire presidency of Joe Biden. Is that what you are seeing? And do you believe that this latest executive order is actually making a big impact on the border crossers we're seeing?
So anybody out there listening, please don't be deceived by this administration. They're saying it's their lowest because they let it go so high. We're still at 5,000 apprehensions a week in the Tucson sector. The gotaways are at almost 500 a day right now. They're not talking about that. People are being left in the desert. Border Patrol just on June 26th found a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 42-year-old dead in the desert that the cartels left for behind. They have 7 sex offenders that were stopped at the border who were arrested here and convicted in America, sent back to whatever country, why we sent them back and didn't make them pay for their crime, but they get sent back, and now they tried to come back in. Some of them were for rape, some of them for sexual misconduct, and some of them were for sexual misconduct with a minor. So while they want to tout that these numbers are the best they've ever done, it's because they moved the Overton window. They slid it so far up so that now when it comes back down to 4,900 in a week, they're going to pretend like that's a good thing. No, the acceptable number for everybody out there listening is 0. You should have 0 illegal crossings into this country. That's what we should expect from our government. So I'm not going to let them do a touchdown dance on this. It's not okay. The numbers aren't great. The numbers under President Trump were far better than what they are under this administration. And he lied on the stage the other night saying that Border Patrol supports him. They do not.
But to be fair, one of the big criticisms, and I've been critical of this, is that Congress has not acted either, that there has not been a push by the American people to force the House and the Senate to have matching bills with real teeth in it and real immigration reform where we are securing our border and then we have a pathway to an immigration system that Americans can be proud of. Do you believe that the Congress needs to do a better job, that they need to make this a priority and get something done? And if so, what does it look like?
Mike, I believe it so much so that I'm willing to abandon a job that I'm willing to not run again for a job that I love to go to a job in Washington, D.C. Why? Because we need senators and congressmen that understand that this issue needs to be fixed. The immigration piece needs to be fixed, common sense immigration, and then we've got to secure our southern border. And you're right, both sides are failing because they're using this as a political point, where they're raising funds off of it. And so we've got to have people that understand we just got to get the job done. That's what we do in law enforcement. You got to get the job done, and it's got to be done at a federal level. And we've got to secure our border, let Border Patrol do their job, restore the Remain in Mexico, where you can't just claim asylum and come sit in our country till 2030 or 2032. And many of these people getting checks for more than what our people get for Social Security or our homeless veterans get or our veterans get. These are all issues that have to be fixed at a federal level. H.R. 2 was a good bill that came out of Congress, much better than that garbage they tried to throw in the global assistance bill. They're just playing politics with it right now, Mike, and I'm sick and tired of it. And I think the people in America are sick and tired of it.
Sheriff, I always appreciate the time. Can you give the website if people want to learn more about your campaign, social media, or your website? Where can they find out more?
Go on Instagram, American Sheriff. On Twitter, we're Sheriff Lamb 1. On Facebook, Sheriff Lamb. But please go to sherifflambforsenate.com, sherifflambforsenate.com. You can volunteer, you can donate, and please make sure you vote. And independents, if you're listening out there, you can request a ballot, a Republican ballot, or you can show up on the day of election and you can request a Republican ballot. I would love to earn your vote and have your vote on July 30th.
Great talking to you, Sheriff.
Good talking to you too, Mike. Thanks.
All right, that is Sheriff Mark Lamb making his case. We are obviously inviting the other candidates on, and hopefully we'll get those on before the debate or before the primary as well.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.